From us damn street niggas, we ain't really comfortable with all the attention. Do what you trying to say.
Do what you do, baby.
Yeah, I want congrats. I seen to come up through the mud. You feel me?
Real.
Yeah. I'm saying, like I said, I used to be top. I'm one of the ones. When that nigga said he had a phone, his whole joke, and I'm looking at the screen like preach. Cause I was on the phone with him, you feel me? So you know what I'm saying?
It's Pete the General to know the podcast. You keep your body clean, huh? Yeah. How you doing, bro? How you doing, brother? I hope you're having a very Tunola evening. You heard me?
Man, it's all good on my end. How you doing?
Man, I'm all right. I'm all right, big brother. You ready to get into it?
I'm ready when you are, bro.
Let's get into it. What's your name, man?
My name is Chris Matthews. I go by Chris Matthews. It's Chris Matthews Ray, because you know how we do in New Orleans.
You already know, big brother. Let us get a little insight on your upbringing and your background, man.
I was born and raised in the St. Bernard Housing Project when the St. Bernard Housing Project existed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the address. Matter of fact, 3710 Gibson Street is the address on my birth certificate.
You did. You heard me. That's what's up. So how was it coming up in the St. Bernard Project back in the day? Big brother?
Man, back in the day, this was back in the early 60s, early 70s. It was not bad, to be honest with you. I mean, you had stuff that was going down, but when you were a little kid back then, you know, generally the old heads, they would protect you. I mean, they still do their thing, but back then there's a certain level of respect you had for certain things like women and children. So
yes sir.
They kept you out of it. And if they knew you were the son or daughter of somebody who was kind of strict, they made sure that they kept you on the up and up too.
Yes sir. They were the parents when the parents wasn't around. It was a real community.
Pretty much. It was a real community back then.
What you think happened to that, Mr. Chris?
Man, I wish I could tell you for sure.
We speaking, you know what I'm saying? We giving an opinion, we speaking in general.
You know, my perspective, you grew up with the people back there. And the people back there grew up with you. But then you started having folks coming in who didn't necessarily grow up with you, didn't necessarily know you. So it just started to be a different game at that point.
Yes, sir. And that's when everything changed, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you're an Army vet, huh, Mr. Chris?
Yeah. I went into the Army right out of well, not right out of, but I went in the Army out of college.
Okay. What made you make that decision?
Say again?
What made you make the decision to, take the Army route?
So I'd gone to the Army because that was kind of like one of those contingency plans I worked out. I knew that I was going to be having quite a bit of debt when I got out of college.
Okay.
And the Army offered a program that was known as the Montgomery GI Bill. There was a loan repayment option attached to that. Okay. So for so many years of service, they pay back so much of your loan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you thought that was the quickest way to get out of debt?
Yeah.
Okay. How long did you serve, Mr. Chris?
I did 4 years active duty, and I stayed in after I did my 4 years time, and I went ahead and joined up with the National Guard. And I did that for another 2.5 years.
Okay. So, all right, let me ask you, you've been in two branches, right? Let me ask you about basic training, right? Is
Yeah.
it as hard and as you know what I'm saying? Is it as difficult as everybody say, or they just putting that little oomph on it? You know what I'm saying? Just to escape. How it is, Mr. Chris? Keep it real.
Okay. Well, when I went in the Army, that was the basic training that I experienced. So, I was also, my brother probably mentioned I was also in the Air Force as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I did Army basic training, and I'm not going to lie to you, that was some of the hardest stuff I've ever done.
So
It was
all the rumors
basic
true.
training itself was 8 weeks, and then after that, it's another 3-4 weeks of just individual training towards your particular Army job that you went in for. And I happened to go into one of those Army jobs. They call it a MOS, your military occupational specialty. I happened to go into one of those jobs. It's basically combat arms. I was what was called a cannon crew member. And they break down, usually they break down Army basic training, and then your individual training is known as AIT, where they let up on you a little bit. I didn't get that opportunity. When you're a fire, when you in combat arms, basically it's basic training all through.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I'm not gonna lie, it was some of the hardest stuff I ever did, but there's also some of the most rewarding things I've ever experienced as well. Because I used to be like, physically, I used to not be able to break 140 pounds at all. That was the heaviest I'd ever been before I went in the Army.
Sound like me.
Now, the basic training drill instructors will tell you, if you're a big boy, this is going to slim you down. And if you're a small guy, it's going to muscle you up. And I happen to be a small guy when I went in. I went in at 140, between 145 and 160. And by the time I was done, I was like 178 to 185.
Pure muscle or just
pure muscle?
Pure muscle, yeah. All right, so all the rumors are true. They now rumors is all real. You get your,
you're gonna work for that muscle. They will smoke you day and night without fail. They basically, they call them drill instructors because they drill it into you until you get it right.
So take us through it, Mr. Chris. Take us through some of your basic training, man.
So it was mainly teaching you about being a soldier. And with my particular occupational specialty, being a cannon crew member, I was in field artillery. So emphasis on field, basically. They taught you how to rough it out in the field while you were, firing that big gun. In addition to firing that big gun, you're gonna learn how to do your basic soldiering. That is marksmanship, proper respect for people who outrank you, and above all else, physical training, because one of the things that they emphasize is being fit to fight. And you can't be fit to fight if you can't do push-ups, a certain amount of push-ups, a certain amount of sit-ups, or certain run time in a specific frame of time. When I first went in, I was doing the 2-mile run in about 29 minutes. So I was slacking. By the time I finished basic training in AIT, I was doing the 2-mile run in like 12 minutes and 30 seconds.
285. 285. Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of all of that, I became part of what they call the 300 Club. Basically, that's somebody who gets at least 298 or better on their PT test.
Mm-hmm.
So I could do 100 push-ups in 2 minutes, about 85 sit-ups in 2 minutes, and then do that 2-mile run in 12 minutes and 30 seconds. And that was at 29 years old.
Yes, sir.
So when I went in, I was a little bit older than the average.
Did that,
but
did
like I said,
gun,
it was.
Did shooting that big gun leave any lasting ear problems for you, Mr. Chris?
They give you ear protection, but technically, yeah, even with the ear protection, even nowadays, I still kind of get a ringing in my ears whenever I'm, and sometimes it's hard to hear when someone is talking to me, like right in front of me, but there's a whole lot of other stuff going on.
Right. Facts. Okay, so right after the personal training, you go straight to your designated, part of service, or is it like a class you go to before? How that go, Mr. Chris?
So after you finish basic training and AIT, the Army basically they give you the next duty station that you're going to be going to. Some guys stayed at the basic training post where we first learned, and they were stationed at Fort Sill in Oklahoma. Then some people got sent to different places all over the country. There were some guys who were lucky enough. They came from a particular place and they were stationed in that place where they came from, near home.
Okay.
And then some of us, we got our first taste of seeing the rest of the world, basically.
Yes, sir.
My first duty station after basic training at AIT was doing a year tour in Korea.
Okay, how was that for you, Mr. Chris?
Was
it a culture shock? You know what I'm saying? Did you fit right in? Did you have to learn Korean? How was that, Mr. Chris?
I picked up a few words in Korean. I didn't actually learn it because some of those Eastern languages are notoriously hard to learn for some people for some reason. And I was one of those people.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to put it to you this way. I had already had a plan when I went in, and Korea hadn't been initially part of that plan. So at first, when I found out I was getting stationed in Korea for a year, I was hating life. Yeah. My plan was to go back someplace close to where I was at the time, because I was living in Atlanta at the time. And the nearest base that had a field artillery unit at the time was Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia. And I was hoping, okay, let me get Fort Benning. My girl is in Atlanta. I can get Fort Benning.
It's not your choice.
No. That's another thing about being in the military, man. It's needs of the Army, not needs of the soldier.
So it's kind of like an NFL draft. You don't know where you're going.
Pretty much.
Okay, that's what
you can hope all you want to, but what's gonna happen is gonna happen.
Yeah,
and what happened to me was 1 year in Korea.
Well, how was the food, Mr. Chris? How was the Korean food, man?
It was nice. I got a chance to sample a little something called kimchi, which is basically a real spicy dish made with cabbage. That it's kind of it's cabbage that has kind of gotten really overly ripe, basically.
It's like the cheese.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ain't bring the gumbo out there. You ain't bring the red beans out there, the king cake. You ain't bring the king cake to Korea?
Nah, I was immersed in the Korean experience. I didn't really get a chance to bring the, well, let me put it this way. I'm not going to say that the New Orleans experience didn't follow me there and I didn't bring a piece of it there, because you had a big contingent of people who were from the South and from Louisiana in particular who are also stationed out there. So I think at the time that I was stationed there, 99 through 2000, that was when
Cash
Mystical
Money
was big. You heard Mystical in the club. You heard you first started hearing was Juvie in the club.
You know, they were taking over for the 99 2000.
And in the 2000, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so they was way overseas already?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, they was taking over for the 99 2000 for real, huh?
For real, for real.
Okay, so what's the difference now than when you served?
You know, I don't keep up too much with my Army buddies, and a lot of the cats that I served with are either out now or retired. So, I mean, I can only speak from my experience as a reservist from the time that I was in. And when I was in back in, I was an Air Force reservist. And the Air Force is a whole lot more laid back than the Army.
Okay.
The Army, I mean, it's still the military. You still do the military customs and courtesies and everything, but the Air Force was a whole lot more, for lack of a better word, it was a whole lot more relaxed.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I mean, I was surprised when I went in the Air Force.
Okay.
I mean, you
wasn't just a soldier.
No, I was working in the office in the Air Force, whereas when I was in the Army, my office was the inside of that big gun.
Yes, sir. Yes,
we spent most of the time in the field. When we got deployed, we were out in the field. Whereas when I was in the Air Force and I did my, 2 weekends, every month, and then 2 weeks during the summer. 2 weeks during the summer when I was deployed with the Air Force, we were in a hotel. I was like, what the? So what's really going on?
What's the difference between the Army, like the full-time, and the reserve?
So the main difference is the amount of time that you do. Okay. When you're in the Army is like a 9 to 5, weekday to weekday job. Whereas when you're a reservist, you only do it like the last weekend of the month. And then you have to go on to active duty, basically, 2 weeks during the summer, usually at the end of June or the end of July. And you deploy someplace inside the States. Okay. Like the last time I was a reservist with the Air Force Reserve, we went to South Carolina and spent 2 weeks at one of the bases out in South Carolina.
The base, not the hotel, huh?
Well, we stayed in the hotel, but we would work at the base.
You did. So all right, I got the action, man. Did you experience any racism while in your respective branches of the Army and the Air Force?
Me personally, no. Now, that being said, I don't want to give you the impression that there is no racism. For example, they would emphasize the fact that the working language of the Army is English. Now, they usually emphasize this fact when you have folks in the Army who are speaking their own native language to somebody else.
Right.
And I kind of felt like, those two dudes, these two Mexican dudes are having a personal conversation. That has nothing to do with the job.
Right. Right.
So you don't have any right to impose that particular standard on them because they're having a personal conversation and you just want to be in on it.
Right.
Now, if they're talking about the job and, they're trying to cut somebody out, then fine. But no, don't try to impose an Army standard on something in a racist manner. Because basically that's what that boils down to.
Being nosy.
Exactly.
You understand? Yeah, they nosy. They nosy, Mr. Chris.
Man, don't make me tell you no story.
I'm not, Mr. Chris. I'm not. Check it out. In your personal opinion, would you advise a young brother to join the Army?
For our people, usually joining the military is one of the quickest ways into the middle class.
Okay.
And I would advise them to think carefully about what their current situation is and then make an informed decision based upon that.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to get into and consider the opportunities that are available to you apart from the Army before you consider the Army. If you're going to college, go to college. That way, if you still want to consider the Army afterwards, you can go in as an officer.
So that's why you went late, because you went to school first, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. So you got your profession first, then you went and got the incentives. I see what you did, Mr. Chris. Shout out to you. You understand me? Yeah. that job insurance wasn't too much, so you had to go get that. Yeah, I see you. I see what you did.
Exactly.
So, okay, you said you were deployed. What's some of the places you've been to, and what was your favorite place?
Let's see. I was deployed towards the end of my 4-year active duty term to Kuwait. This was basically that deployment was basically a shot across the bow or a challenge to Saddam Hussein.
Okay.
To let him know that, we mean business when we say we coming into Iran to kick you out.
Okay.
So it was a practice up for that. As a matter of fact, my last year in, after I was getting out, when I went back to my unit for my what's called my interim service award, my first sergeant told me, "Yo, you sure you don't want to sign back up? We about to go to Iran." I said, "No, I'm good, sir. I'm good."
Okay. So look, that leads us into the next question. You heard me? What was the tension? Just take us through 9/11. You understand me? When the towers first fell, and what was the feel after that, Mr. Chris?
So when 9/11 occurred, I remember exactly where I was. I was in uniform at Fort Benning, because I've been stationed at Fort Benning after I got out of my tour of duty in Korea for that year. And Fort Benning ended up being my next duty station. And I was standing on top of one of the big guns, kind of directing traffic in our cleanup area.
Big dog. Go ahead. Yeah. Don't be humble.
And basically, that's when they told us, "All right, everybody, y'all need to go ahead and report to the nearest barracks. Come out of the area and report to the nearest barracks." And we went to the barracks and turned on the TV, and that was the first thing we saw, with the towers going down. We had a couple of cats from New York stationed in at Fort Benning with us, who basically broke ranks and tried to drive home at that point.
Like
That's
he tried
how
to run. Like he tried to run. Or he just tried to like check on his people.
I mean, you leaving without you going absent without leave, so you're not exactly running. But basically, he wanted to go check on these cats were that concerned about their people,
Okay.
that they wanted to leave. I mean, that wasn't the proper way to go about it, but I can understand that.
Right, under the circumstances.
It was just like me when I was living down here and Katrina happened.
Right. We was gonna get
going
to that.
home was the first thing I wanted to do to check on my people.
We gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you was gone for Katrina, but initially, what did you? Because I was young, right? So
yeah.
Let me make you laugh right quick, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm cutting class, right? So the thing flashed on the TV. I can't see where we was at, right?
Right.
So me personally, I'm thinking either the pilots was on dope or they was drunk and they done messed up and crashed into the buildings, right?
Yeah.
I did not know the magnitude. You see what I'm saying? That's how small-minded I was back in the G. You hear me? I did not know the magnitude. So I want to know what went through your mind before you heard the news, when you first seen it. What did you think was going on?
I'm not gonna lie. Initially, I thought it was just an accident.
Yeah,
a domestic accident. A plane just happened to crash into the tower. My mind did not immediately go there.
Then the second one hit.
And then the second one hit, and I said, no, this is something serious.
That's when I got my mind right too. I was like, nah, ain't no two pilots drunk on the same day. They ain't having that. Yeah. So what was the feeling and what was, what was the mood in the barracks?
Man, we were all just quiet, sitting around the TV. And then some of the older cats who had been in for a while said, yeah, we under attack.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, I don't know what, I don't know who this is or what this is, but we definitely under attack. And the next move is going to be ours.
So did y'all know right off the bat who sent that hit, or did y'all have to what I'm saying?
No, we had to learn from the news just like everybody else did, man. We didn't have we just grunts,
Yeah.
A lot of people have this idea that the whole army is just this one big intelligence unit. No, we're basically an army that has certain people who are an intelligence unit. I'm sure they got the impression a little bit sooner than the rest of us did. But like I said, I was field artillery, which is basically what they call lazy man combat arms. We ride in a gun rather than march like 11 Bravos or regular infantrymen.
Y'all get straight to the business.
Pretty much, yeah.
Did you get deployed?
Infantrymen, folks like us, field artillery, we think for ourselves as it fits to our particular job, but basically we're the hammer.
So y'all just sit around waiting to fight.
Yeah.
I like
pretty
that.
much.
I like that, Mr. Chris. So okay.
Yeah,
did you get deployed in the war?
We get intelligence from high telling us where to hit, and we hit.
Did you get deployed in the war?
No, as I said, at the time that the war jumped off, and this was Operation Enduring Freedom. That was when the rest of my unit deployed to Iran.
Yeah,
but at the time I was getting out of the army and going into the National Guard.
Okay.
So I missed deployment by about yay much.
Did you want to go?
At the time, I was getting ready to start a family. I just got married not too long ago. So honestly, no, I didn't.
Okay.
If I had to, I would have, because that's what I signed up for.
Yeah. You ain't thugging no
And
smoke.
if, there's a little clause in your contract, whereas if something jumps off and you about to get out, they can keep you in, basically.
No.
Yeah. That's called an involuntary extension. Quite a few cats got caught up in that.
I would have involuntarily ducked off.
Now, they were gracious enough to let me do what I was going to do.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But yeah, quite a few cats got caught up in the involuntary extension, especially as the war dragged on in Iraq, and we started losing people and having a lot of casualties. I don't know if you remembered it, but they started calling people back into the Army who hadn't finished up their entire term of service. Because when you sign up for the Army for 4 years, basically you're signing up for the reserve as well for an additional 4 years.
See,
that's
do
something
they tell you that?
Huh?
Do they tell you that?
Oh yeah, they tell you that.
Okay.
So it's not like you're going into it blind, but it's something that not a lot of cats pay attention to. So when you sign up for 4 years of active duty, you're also signing up to be, involuntarily called back if the need arises.
So it's really not 4 years, it's an 8-year deal.
Exactly. It's an 8-year commitment. Or it has the potential to be an 8-year commitment.
Okay. So Mr. Chris, what's the most important lesson that you learned from basic training? And what's the most important lesson that you learned from actually serving in the Army?
Basic training taught me that I was a whole lot tougher than I thought I was. You can think that, I can't do this. I'm not made for this.
They're going to make you do it.
They're going to make you made for this.
Yes, sir.
Either they're going to make you make it so that you were made for this, or it will break you. And you have to decide which one of those things is going to happen to you.
Out of your class, Mr. Chris, how many people did it break?
There were like maybe 1 or 2 out of a class of 90 guys.
Oh yeah, 185. Yeah, 185. Okay. That's what's up. Okay, so at what point did you realize that you wanted to do did you say the Air Force?
So after I'd done my basic training and after I'd done my active duty, I got out. I did the reserves for about 2.5 years. And then I concentrated on getting my master's degree, and I taught for a little while.
Good job, black man.
And then I decided, I still have something to contribute to the military.
Yes, sir.
And not only that, but I could also be getting military benefits and just by doing this part-time. And that could help me to, that could help support my retirement once I retire from this civilian job.
Good thinking, black man.
Yeah. So that's when I decided I'm going to go back in and be a reservist.
Yes, sir. And does a reservist get the same benefits as active duty?
The reservist gets the same benefits as long as they maintain their good standing. Basically, they can't miss too many days in that 2 weekends a month and that 2 weeks during the summer.
Okay.
And at that point, if they do that, that time in service is counted towards their active duty time in service. So altogether, that works towards that 20-year retirement plan.
Okay, okay. So they call me Peanut the General, right? Can you
Yes.
define what a general is? Yeah, yeah. Can you define what a general is, Mr. Chris? You understand?
So a general
Mm-hmm.
is the highest ranking commissioned officer.
185. Huh, Mr. Chris? 185.
Now,
Yeah.
there are 5 kinds of generals.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were in the Army, this was part of our Army education. We had to memorize those ranks. So they gave us a little memory device in order to do that.
Hold on, let me move Obama out the way. Excuse me, Mr. Obama. I need to hit this.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have this little memory device, and it's be my little general of the Army.
Mm.
So B, brigadier general.
Mm.
My, major general.
Mm.
L, lieutenant general.
Mm.
And then general of the Army, the highest ranking.
185.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's me. Let me pop my collar right quick, Mr. Chris. All right. So let's get serious right quick. You hear me, Mr. Chris? You know 185. One more time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Highest rank. You hear me? But what you think? What's your opinion on the state of our city, man?
Let me start off with this.
Let's go.
I love the city of New Orleans. I love it.
But
the city of New Orleans is what made me, and it's an indelible part of my culture.
But
I need us to do better.
Talk to him, Mr. Chris.
Because we are capable of so much more. I mean, quiet as it's kept, New York is not the birthplace of jazz music.
Talk to him, Mr. Chris. Huh?
We had Buddy Bolden.
Shout out, Buddy.
We had Sidney Bechet.
Shout out, Sidney.
Louis Armstrong may have became famous in New York, but where was the cradle of Louis Armstrong? Where did he get started?
Talk to him. Talk to him.
New Orleans is a cultural treasure. It's not a killing field.
It's not the battlefield. We're not at war, right?
There's so much of our culture that's being lost. And I'm not talking about just the crumbling infrastructure. I'm talking about the people.
Talk to him.
When you kill a person, you're taking a life that is irreplaceable. You're taking away memories. You're not just taking away somebody's child. You're taking away memories. You're taking away potentials. And all of those people who were lost to our city and scattered all over the rest of the country during Katrina, that was bad enough.
Talk to him.
But not being able to return for financial reasons because of the powers that be trying to make a buck rather than try to build back the city that was with the people that were.
Airports and all that, but we ain't gonna get into that, right, Mr. Chris? We ain't gonna.
All of those people not being able to return to their home because they were basically priced out of it. That's bad enough. But the people that did manage to stay there or return, they're getting killed through the violence that basically is a byproduct of poverty.
Talk to him, Mr. Chris.
And of lack of opportunity. So having a nice tourist attraction is nice and it's all well and good, but how about having a nice school system?
Talk to him, Mr.
How
Chris.
about having nice job opportunities that pay a living wage in that particular city? How about property values that are not based upon whether or not you're going to get flooded out, or at least make some type of adjustment for that? I can't speak for everybody else who's from New Orleans, but I know I miss my home. Even though I'm doing okay where I am now, I'd at least like to have some place I can take my children one day and say, this is the town that your father was raised in.
Yes, sir.
This is the town that has dictated and defined your father's culture and your father's way of thinking.
Shout out to Seven Wall.
That's right.
Shout out to, I'm from out the 8 Wall, but you know, we're going to shout the 7. We're going to shout the Bernard out.
It's all good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out them animals too, though. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. But go ahead, Mr. Chris.
So I'm just saying, man, we as a city, we need to do better. Yes, I don't know what doing better entails.
Yes, sir.
I do know that we have a culture that is priceless and irreplaceable, and it deserves a chance at being preserved and shared with the rest of the world. And we can't preserve it and share it with the rest of the world with all of the violence that's going on in the city right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's the biggest difference now from when you came up, Mr. Chris?
I want to say it seems a whole lot more bleak. I mean, back when I was coming up, we dealt with poverty. We dealt with racism. We dealt with the same amount, if not an even greater amount, of gentrification and white flight from those areas in the city that, you know, used to be predominantly mixed and then became predominantly economically disadvantaged as the tax base went to other places.
Talk about it.
So we dealt with the same thing, but I think the difference between the haves and the have-nots within the city of New Orleans are a whole lot more stark and a whole lot more obvious now.
It's like they put it in our face.
Exactly. If nothing put it in our face, you know,
the projects.
If nothing put it in our face, it was Katrina that put it right in our face.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you can't flee from a hurricane if you don't have a car.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you mainly go to and from your job on public transit, Rita, we used to call her.
Rita.
If that's your sole means of transportation, how do you expect somebody to flee from a hurricane when Rita's no longer available?
Hence all those school buses that was flooded out, right?
That too.
And
I can't even get into what was on the mind of, or what type of logistics these people had in mind when they allowed that to happen.
Well, you know, airports, you know, more tourist attractions, running us out the project because it's closer to the city, so the others could move in. things like that, though. But you know, that's thing that's gonna get me banned. So we ain't, we, we gonna pass that right up. You hear me, Mr. Chris? So
I hear you, brother.
in your opinion, Mr. Chris, at what point did it get did it turn? Because the okay, let's keep it real. The city never been safe, right? City always been violent. At what point, in your opinion, did it go from bad to worse?
That's a tough one for me because I haven't lived in the city in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, and like I said, this is just my opinion.
Your opinion, we speaking in general.
You had all the violence concentrated in certain areas of the city when the projects existed.
Talk about
when you tore down all of the projects, which was basically New Orleans's version of low-income housing.
The St. Bernard, the St. Thomas, the Magnolia, the Calliope, the Iberville, the
Exactly.
Lafitte, and the Fisher. Did I forget anybody?
You mentioned Lafitte.
I mentioned, and I mentioned the St. Bernard.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
man, and one more thing. Shout outs to my man, Boogie, comedian Boogie B. Rest in peace, brother.
Man, see,
that
bro.
hurt. That broke my heart when I heard about that.
What's going on, Mr. Chris? What's going on?
I wish I knew, and I wish I knew what to say to stop it. But that one, that brother was, like I said, he was a cultural treasure, unique to New Orleans. He had left New Orleans and branched out with his comedy and gone on to another place and did well there. And he came back to visit, and then that happened to him.
But he took New Orleans with him.
He was a cultural ambassador.
He taught, because I was learning. I mean, it was funny, it was interesting, but I was learning about our history from that man.
Exactly.
Like, all jokes aside, that man taught me stuff that I never knew. You know what I'm saying?
He was our hood historian. Like he said,
about my hood. Yeah, especially about my hood. So the magician's not safe. The entertainer's not safe. The comedian's not safe. Nobody's safe. So let me ask you this, Mr. Chris. From an army standpoint, what can be done? In your opinion, from an army standpoint? Put these little mother through basic training, huh? Y'all, huh? Y'all think y'all bad? Y'all think y'all this and that and woo-de-woo? Put them through basic training, huh, Mr. Chris?
Army training is not meant for everybody, but I mean, for lack of a better solution, they used to say back in the 60s when my dad was in the military, they used to have the option: go to war, go to jail. I guess if more people had skin in the game as far as the military is concerned, maybe we'd turn out maybe we'd have people who had a better mindset about the value of life versus death. Because too many have a fatalistic mindset right now. It's a I don't give a damn attitude towards life.
Say that what type of mindset?
A fatalistic mindset.
Wow.
They concentrate more on death than they do on life.
Wow. I never thought about it like that, Mr. Chris. So in your opinion, does social media play a big part in this?
Social media is only a symptom. It helps to spread the disease a little bit more rapidly. a lot of the beefs that happen can be spread quickly through social media.
Mm.
And that's not just in the that's not just in the local setting, but that's nationally as well. I mean, let's face it, social media had implications on our elections.
Mm.
Social media had implications on our world affairs.
Mm.
It was through manipulating the social media that folks say Russia, affected our election.
Don't get me banned, Mr. Chris. But yeah, you're right. You're with the ads and targeting people with the ads and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this, right? Is this a everybody problem, meaning state, senate, or government, or is this a community problem, meaning us, our elders, and what we value as Black people?
Well, let me put it to you this way.
Put it to you how put it to it, Mr. Chris.
There's this saying that when America catches cold, Black America catches the flu.
Mm. Elaborate on that for us, Mr. Chris, because I'm lost.
If society in general gets sick, our particular part of society gets deathly sick.
Mm.
The things that affect society and make society
Black,
that make society bad affects us so much worse.
You don't think
that's why you have situations where if unemployment is 10% in the white community, for lack of a better word, it's 90% in the Black community.
Do we care?
I think we could stand to care a little bit more. I'm sure we do care. Mm-hmm. It's just that we're so busy living in survival mode. Mm. We can't afford to stop and say, okay, what can we do about this? I mean, let's face it, if it's rain and bullets, all you worrying about is taking cover so that you can live another day. You're not worrying about where the bullets are coming from or who's dropping the bullets. Mm. You just want to live.
Yes, sir.
And our society, our African American society, is in a state of survival mode. And more, it's less and less becoming a situation of Black versus white as it is a situation of the haves and the have-nots. And the rest of the country is starting to recognize that. That's why when you had all of these opiates, it's sort of like the difference between the response to opiates when it attacked our community versus the response that you get when opiates attack the rest of the communities.
We was dope fiends and crackheads, and they people with a sickness and the
sick.
Exactly. Talk about it.
You had these drug companies that are basically drug pushers prescribing opiates for pain when there were so many other alternative methods, but they wanted to sell their particular type of opium.
And I'm gonna tell you, let me cut you off, Mr. Chris. I know over 4 people who were shot that were not on opiates before they got hit, but afterwards they was hooked on.
Mm-hmm.
The pain medicine.
Yeah. And I'd always been
all four of them.
And I personally, I suffered from back issues by the time I got done with the military. And one of the things the doctor tried to prescribe me was opiate. What was that?
Percocet.
Not Percocet. It was that big one.
I know what you're talking about because that's what we had.
Vicodin.
Yeah.
Vicodin. I said, "What's that?" He said, "It's an opiate." I said, "No, thanks."
Soon as the oat came out, I'm good.
No.
So
I tried it once,
mm-hmm.
and then just to examine what was going on. If I took aspirin, I was usually good for the rest of the day. I took that opium, I took that Vicodin, I'm good for a couple hours, then I got to pop another one. I'm saying, no, what the hell is going on? They trying to get me hooked. No. And after that, I threw them out.
Yes, sir.
And let me stick to this aspirin.
Yes, sir.
So it might burn my stomach up, but at least I rather worry about an ulcer than worry about being a drug addict.
We've been here for an hour, Mr. Chris. We gotta you will be back. You will be back.
I appreciate that, General.
You will be back. Yeah, yes, sir. At 185.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So don't do that because you're gonna buck my head up, Mr. Chris. Don't do that. Don't do that. 185, you heard me? But look, leave us with some encouraging words, especially the younger brothers. Leave us with some advice, some encouraging words, and some uplifting words before you get up out of here, Mr. Chris. I enjoyed you, bro. You part of the Two Nola fam, bro. You coming back, man. You got to come back, Mr. Chris.
That's my hope.
You got to come back, man.
That is my hope. And take advantage of opportunities to do something positive. Our culture is a culture of song, a culture of dance, a culture of creativity. Our culture can do great things if we are allowed to do those great things.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a nation or a culture of killers. We're a culture of healers. We heal through our songs. We heal through our storytelling. We create. And if we concentrate on our ability to create rather than fall prey and victim to our desire to destroy, we can do so much better for our city.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I hope everybody heard that, man. And I hope everybody at least take that into consideration. And that's coming from an elder of the community, man. Any last words before we get up out of here, Mr. Chris?
Just that this has been a great opportunity. I appreciate you wanting to, get my perspective on things. And I enjoy talking to you.
You can't salute me no more, Mr. Chris. You got my head. My head this big. I'm ready to go in there and do the dishes, clean the thing. Yeah. I'm ready to basic train somebody. Don't do me that. Don't do me that, Mr. Chris. But I really enjoyed this, and you will be back on. And welcome to the Two Nola family, man.
I appreciate it.
It's Peter Nut the General, Mr. 185. Two Nola the podcast. You keep your body clean, huh? Yeah. You will be back, Mr. Chris. Thank you. You heard me?
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.